Hello, everyone. My quote of the day is: a great challenge of life is knowing enough to think you're right, but not know enough to know that you're wrong. The idea behind this is just the more you know, the better you can make a decision, but you don't want to procrastinate and collect information forever. Going back to the basics of what is marketing. So what is marketing? If there was one word, what would that word be? If there was one word to define marketing, I would say the word is satisfaction. You're trying as a marketer to satisfy the customers. You're trying to understand what do they want in order to better satisfy them. The more you satisfy them, the more they come back. The more they satisfy them, the more they tell other people. The more you satisfy them, the cheaper it's going to be for you to do business with them, because they don't need as much incentives to do business with you. They know that what you want, and you know what they want. It's building a relationship, and therefore you trusting each other, and therefore you follow each other, and therefore you try to buy the products from the people that care for you, and you try to sell to the people that care for you as well. That way they become some sort of agent for your business. They build some brand equity for your business. However, in the long sentence of what is marketing, the long sentence is the delivery of customer satisfaction at profit on long term. To do business, the most important thing that you need to have is the customers. If you have no customer, you have nothing. Then eventually, once you have a customer, you try to sell to that customer. And that's what's very important. That's why sometimes doing business, it's easier if you're a celebrity, because if you're a celebrity, you have a customer. And essentially, whenever you're going to make, the customer is going to want, those fans will turn into customers for whatever you do. So you're a celebrity because you're a good singer. Next thing you know, you could be selling real estate to people, but you're not someone that knows about real estate. You could be selling tires to people, but you're a singer. How could a singer recommend tires? How could a singer talk about tires and make people buy tires? Well, they can. It's done every day, and people don't question the people that they care for. They just do what they are told by the people that they care. So customers and satisfaction is what makes the ball rolling, and that's what you're trying to do. The delivery is the fact that you need to have an execution. You can't be just doing it poorly. You need to be effective in how you are delivering it. So you want to understand where are your customers, what do they exactly want, when do they want it, how much do they want it, how are they going to be using it, and so forth, and how they're going to pay for it, what issues they're going to have with it, and you're going to help them make sure that this relationship with your brand and your product are seamless. At Prof, it is in the sense that marketers, they care so much about the satisfaction of the customers that eventually they want to satisfy them so much that all they do is try to satisfy them and try to make them happy. By making them happy is they feel like they have to give more to the customers, and the more you give to the customers, the less profit you make. Increasing benefits to the customers is increasing satisfaction, but it's decreasing the profit. So you need to have a good balance between what you do to the customers, why do they like you, and why do they keep coming back. But sometimes you need to make money, so that way you can keep on doing it, maybe even doing it better by investing in your business to become better at satisfying them with better products. If you satisfy them at one time, that means it was at that time that you satisfy them. It doesn't mean you're going to satisfy them forever. So you have to keep reinventing your business in order to follow the past customers, but also the new customers and the future customers. So it's a constantly moving target when you're in business, and you have to constantly keep your eyes on these moving targets, which target may be changing, and most likely will be changing. And therefore it's important to follow them and understand them, and come up with new solutions to existing problems. And long term is the fact that you are not focused on the transaction, you're focused on the relation. So focusing on the transaction makes you someone that is very risk averse, someone that is very anxious about the relationship. So therefore, maybe you lose spontaneity, you lose authenticity, you become very data driven, you become very short-term focused. And when in fact you should be very driven by the market, you should be driven by the customers, and you should be very long-term focused by growing this transaction as quickly as possible into a relationship. In the relationship, there's more exchanges, there's more engagement, there's easier communication, there's more confidence and more trust, and therefore you can build a relationship. And as you have more trust, you have more trust, and as you have more trust and more success, you have more trust. And so all of this goodwill that you have to your customers, eventually they will have to you. And that's great because sometimes the economy goes down. And when the economy goes down, you want to be ready by having customers that really care for you. So your business will go down, but you're less likely to lose your business because you have this group of customers that really care. They have reduced how much they consume, they have reduced in the number of people that consume, but they have enough so that way you can sustain and sort of weather the storm. Any questions on that definition of marketing? That's an important definition. And all the different facets of marketing. It is a philosophy, it's based on principles, it's based on a common sense understanding, you know, that you exist not because of you, you exist because of them. And there may be instances where there are businesses that exist because of the business, and the leadership of the business owner, of the business creator, is really the reason the business exists. And it may last 5 years, it may last a long time, but that's not the norm. And that's not going to be like this forever. For a business to be successful, the norm is not luck. The norm is not pure leadership and innovation. The norm, or the more common norm, or the more common instances, is really caring for the customers and coming up with solutions for the customers that are meaningful. Any questions? Okay, so I'll keep on going, because once you understand this principle, you set yourself into a winning position because you totally oriented towards the customer. And at that time you say, well, but there's not just the customer that are influencing my business. There's also my competitors. There's also the changes in the society. There's the government, the regulation, the access to financing and investments, the resources, the natural resources, all of this, and the change in the economy, the change in the technology, all of this has an influence on your business. So looking at what are the changes that could help you, so the beneficial changes, also called the opportunities, and then you look at those changes that are negative for your business. They are therefore constraints, and those constraints are called the threats. Obviously, I'm talking about the external component of the SWOT analysis, O and T. O and T are much more difficult because the external variables versus S and W, strengths and weaknesses, are much easier because they are internal. What do I mean easier? Easier to analyze, easier to identify what is the company good at, what the company not so good at, versus what are the changes in the environment that we can take advantage of. You could lose yourself in looking at the wrong opportunities. You could lose yourself by looking at collecting opportunities again and again, and constantly collecting and never stopping collecting opportunities. And one time you have to execute. You have to pick an opportunity, and you have to get an evaluation of this opportunity, and then take some chance, some risks in going after that opportunity. Obviously, you want to find the opportunity which is the best match for your company. You want to find the one that is the longest lived. So you don't want to find a short-term opportunity. You may want to find the one that you are not only the best matched, but there's less people as matched as you are in order to take advantage of that opportunity. So you want something that you have some kind of barriers for others to enter, some advantage from the get-go in order to go after those opportunities. That's important. To identify opportunities and threats, you look inside your environment. So inside your environment, you have two elements. There's the micro environment, which is the one closest to the company, and the macro environment, the one that is further. So the micro here is in the pink circle. They are the one that directly affect you, versus the macro are the one that indirectly affect you, which means they directly affecting your micro, and eventually through the micro and indirectly they're affecting you. All of these constitute the sources for identifying opportunities. But also, all of these are threats. So you can gain or lose because of the changes that are happening in all of these. So this is something already I've explained, maybe two, and maybe this is my third time. So I won't go into too much details on it. But when I say write a SWOT, the answer is, and the question is, where do I find the elements that could help me write my SWOT? They are in this environment. So I don't know, demographic. Is demographic an advantage for my business, or is it a disadvantage for my business? Obviously, the demographics are not an advantage. If you're selling a product, like like we were just talking, there's places you go and there's some new young people, and there's places you go and there's some old people. And then if you're selling a product for the young people and there's less and less young people, therefore you ending up having to see your consumer decrease. So you have to constantly change your product depending on the demographics. And so you don't want to be focusing on a product where the demographic is declining, as you want to focus on the demographic that is increasing. Makes total sense. So technological change, obviously, it's the same thing, is you want to create opportunities based on changes that are going to be technologically stable and maybe towards the direction that there's be more and more technologies. So, you know, just to take example of technology that you can take advantage of. Let's say you want to be selling your product and you want to increase the margin that you want to make. And you want to have the most control of on the channel of distribution. So in that situation, you could be trying to sell on using technology such as Shopify. Shopify gives you the technology that you could be selling from your home, from your apartment, because you could even take care of the shipping yourself, take care of the warehousing yourself. But if what you sell is expensive, then you could be trying to use a third party. So there would be a third party, and that technology is available, where they will have some kind of platform connection to your Shopify, and you would be selling your product on Shopify, but you will not be in charge of the shipping, of the fulfillment, of the inventory. Someone else will. And so technological change make a huge difference, because you could take advantage of it in order to become a sort of having a wider spectrum of sales, because then you could go from selling in your town through the local farmers market to selling in your county, to selling in your state, to sell in a global perspective, because the technology of the operations for selling international is much more streamlined from the use of technologies. Okay, so technological changes can be an advantage or can be a disadvantage. Maybe there's a technological change where suddenly your competitors are starting to use AI, and you don't use AI. You're still using Excel spreadsheet to be doing things, and you're still using a lot of people to process some decisions, when you could have AI that would simplify it. So suddenly you have this problem where, in fact, slower, not as precise, and more expensive to do the same type of services. So every one of these, I could go again on natural, on cultural, and political, every one of these can be an advantage or can be a disadvantage. Any questions on the environment before we move on from this section and focus on other things? No? Okay, thank you. So I will now talk about the pest analysis. So the pest analysis is such a sort of a repeat of the elements which are in the environment. So you take the elements inside your environment and you write a report for each one of them: political, economical, social, technological. And so if that's what you do, you're writing your pest analysis. So what is the name of the report that focus on writing analysis of the elements of the macro environment. Talking about economic, technological, political, natural, and demographic. This is called your pest analysis. So your pest analysis, just look at each one of them and come up with a report and a review and explain what they are. The issue with this is it doesn't tell you what to do. It's just like a screenshot of the situation by telling you what is changing. What's nice with the SWOT analysis is therefore you have the element, the external element of O and T, the opportunity and the threats. So describing what's inside the pest is very important, but it's just a description. Analyzing what you could do with it, and if it's a good thing or a bad thing for you, that's the opportunity and threat. So if you want, there's just more analysis by actually coming up with this perspective if these are positively or negatively impacting your business. And what's interesting is once you start identifying the positive impact, that's when you start thinking in terms of strategies or in terms of tactics. But you don't state your opportunity in terms of strategy or tactics. You just state the variable, political, ecological, or whatever, and state that it's an opportunity. You put it inside the opportunity section because that description, you could have 50, 100 descriptions, but in the opportunity, you only put the descriptions that you think you can take advantage of. So it's not a copy and paste, it's a selective copy and paste from your pest. Not all your pests will either go into the opportunity or into the threat. Into these, you will take selectively the pest that is most likely to be beneficial to you and that you can take advantage of and that you can use as a pillar for a direction that you want the business to go after. Just a few, and these becomes the opportunity. So if you want the importance is to analyze as many possible variables from your environment. And then by analyzing them and listing them and acknowledging them, then you take the one that are the most important, and then you put it inside the O and the T as the one that will be the one that will make your business slow down or grow. And so it's sort of a filtration. There's all the elements. Now, all the elements are broken down into several categories, political, technological, and you put them in these. And then from these, down in these categories, you extract the one that have a positive impact, you put in the opportunity. The one that have a negative impact, you put inside the threats, okay? Because the opportunity is the condition environment that favors your business, will eventually enhance your business, and it's always better if it favors your strengths. But sometimes they don't favor your strengths, so they are like the conditioned environment that you could take advantage of and don't favor your strengths, which means in that situation, you have to fix your strengths first in order to be matching with the opportunity. But ideally, you want to find the opportunity that you have the strength, but that's not all the time the case. Sometimes you find almost no opportunity, but the only opportunity that you find is the one that you're not very good at. And then you have to decide that you have to work on this on two stages. One, improving our weaknesses in order to be able to take the advantage of the opportunity. Obviously, it would be better if it's our strength is helpful in taking advantage of the opportunity. So it's like strength, opportunity. Next situation is strength, and also weaknesses turn into a strength, and then take advantage of the opportunity. The issue with this is it creates a delay. So, in business, what you can do today, you don't want to postpone it to tomorrow. So the more you are trying to focus on opportunities that you have not the strength, the more you're going to have to delay, and the more you may be losing by having competitors taking advantage of the opportunity better. The sooner you take advantage of an opportunity, the more usually you can take advantage of that opportunity by not having others take advantage of it earlier than you. When you take advantage of opportunity late, you delay the capacity for your business to take advantage of the time innovation being at the beginning of the cycle. So the more you're at the beginning of the cycle, the more you can benefit from the cycle. And then the threat is the condition in this environment again, not the internal environment, the external. So the threats won't talk about weaknesses. So there will be no name of the company. You know, for our client, the threat is this. You know, the client has this threat. That's most likely to be, when you talk about the client, with a weakness. So the threat is a list of things that will be creating a problem for the client. Now, as I like to repeat, opportunities are not ideas. Opportunities are not what you are going to do. So students oftentimes make the mistakes of explaining what they think the business should do and thinking that these are the opportunities. Opportunities are not the ideas of what you think the business should do. That's most likely the tactics. So what are the opportunities? They're just facts. Facts that are changing in the environment that you can take advantage of. So you worry about the facts and you worry about the facts that are enduring and therefore they will last. So some opportunity samples. Again, opportunities are not what you are going to do. So if you say the opportunity is to sell more organic chicken, you know, so that's a typical sentence from the student. Is the opportunity is to sell more water, filtered water. You know, people want more filtered water. And so in the situation of OCO, people wanting more filtered water is an opportunity, but it only justifies the fact that therefore we should be in the filtered water business. And so we're not going to try to tell a client that what they're doing is great, keep on doing what you're doing. The job of a consultant, the job of someone that thinks in terms of marketing is to think about the current situation and think about a better way to solve the current situation, not just to comfort and agree with the current situation. I mean, you can agree with it, but it's not helpful to someone to come and tell you that what you're doing is great, keep on doing. A marketer should be someone who's very critical and comes up with better solution, even though the solution we have right now is A+ solution, is you want a marketer that comes and try to figure out, you know, a bigger, a +A+, a next level. Because the thing is, most likely if you have an A+ now, it's going to be a declining A+. As of right now, it's an A+, but it will be a declining A+, because competitors will come and beat you on what you're offering, and therefore you go into a B+, B-, and eventually not be able to sell the product. The product has a life cycle, which is due to the consumers and it's due to the competition, and it's due to the economy. There's multiple factors, but one of the big things that change your product not to be so successful is because there is another successful product, more successful than you. So if opportunities to sell more organic chicken is wrong, could you reverse engineer this sentence? Yes. The reverse engineer of this is the fact that people want more organic chicken, according to the research ABC from the journal ABC from 2024. So you try to see some changes and state those changes as an opportunity in order to be selling more product. Ideas are tactics and opportunities are facts. So it's very important to see that. So that's important, and that's very poorly understood in the sense that tactics are different than strategies, because strategies are the big, broad directions versus the tactics are the narrow, small facts supporting the strategy. So it's like the strategy is the broad definition, the tactics is the detailed, specific definition of smaller pieces that are part of fulfilling the objective of the broad definition. So again, opportunities are not ideas, they are facts. Facts on things that your business can take advantage of, build on, and create strategies from. So the best opportunities are the ones that you can create strategies from. That's another difficult point, is to see that some ideas are so precise, so small, that they don't that they cannot be called strategies. They can only be called tactics. So here's an example. So the opportunity is the price of electricity is going up by 15% in January 2024, according to the sustainability research. So if the price of electricity is going up, is that a good or bad thing? Well, it's a bad thing, because if we are promoting the fact that electricity is an alternative to gas, but electricity goes up, then it's going to limit the argument that we should be all going for electric vehicles, for example. So in that situation, you have to come up with a strategy. In that situation, you will imagine that if the electricity prices go up, that's after the gas prices went up. So the electricity prices go up, therefore the gas prices went up, and therefore the alternative to an electric car would not be a gas-powered car. But you can imagine that that could be true too. I'm not trying to make a political statement. I'm just trying to use an example to see how things can evolve. So now, we imagine the price is up, of gas, a little bit less, but still so of electricity. So therefore, what would be the strategy? The strategy would be to invent a car that will work on another alternative strategy beside electricity, because that's supposed to be the alternative, but now it's also the price is going up, so we have to find something else. So in that situation, let's say Toyota, once they see this information, they see it as a threat, but they also see it as an opportunity for a company that would look at alternative energy in order to propel cars. So in this situation, I sort of had to come up with something. I invented the concept that Toyota, as a strategy, should invent a car running on carbon dioxide. And so that strategy will be a strategy of new product development, creating a new product that works on another alternative energy beside electricity, since that one is sort of losing of its luster. It's not a solution anymore, it's part of the problem. Okay. And then what would be the tactic? Tactic is hire the most famous Las Vegas musician to post TikTok videos on his new car. Therefore, it's not an opportunity, it's not a strategy, but it's an idea that is essentially just a tactic. So asking some celebrity to post on TikTok. Why I use that one is because for the past 5 years, every time I say, oh, what kind of strategic idea you have? The most common answer is use a celebrity to sell the product. That's the most common strategy that I hear from students. But using a tactical TikTok ad, or using TikTok celebrity, is only tactical. It's part of a bigger plan. The bigger plan would have to do with communication overall. The communication overall would have to do with maybe identifying a new customer. And if you identify a new customer and you sort of try to make the product match with the needs of that customer, the real focus is the customer, and therefore this becomes market development, focusing on a specific customer with product benefit. And so it's important to see that in this situation, before you can create this new product, you have to conceptualize the new product, at least on paper, have a description on paper. And that description on paper goes into the strategic definition of what is the marketing strategy. Marketing strategy is new product development, creating a new product that fulfill those needs for that type of customer for this price and with this exact amount of services. So that would be your strategy. Then the detail on how you make people buy it. Is it online you buy it? Is it 1 click, 3 click? Is it finance? Is that installation and help assisting with this product? Is it more or less expensive? Is it available in one store, in all the store, in just some stores? And are they just one product, or their product with many different features? What I mean by this is when you buy a car, for example, you would buy a car with many different options. There is companies that sell the car at a lower price with already a lot of features. There's some other companies, they have a different policy. They will sell a very basic cars for a lower price, but still more expensive. And then they would have lots of accessories, but you have to pay a lot for those accessories. And those companies, they make money, not so much from people buying the car sort of naked, but it's by buying the car with as many accessories as possible. And so different product and branding strategies that they may adopt, and because different customers, because also it's for competitive advantage. If you sell the car with all of the accessories, you are able to sell the car for much less. And then when you have a price for much less, you may be in the middle, maybe in the higher bracket of another company. So therefore you go into the consideration set. And then when you're in the consideration set, they use your brand as a gauge, as a measuring stick with the other products. And because you are the lowest price in the high bracket, oftentimes you would be perceived as the better product. And so you see this, for example, with a BMW, where they would have a lot of accessories that you have to buy in addition to the main product. So it's important to see that they make a margin that is much smaller for the main product. Maybe they make 20%, 15% when you buy the car, but then for the accessories, they would be making 50%, 70%, 100% for the accessories, and maybe even the financing. So it's important to see that you can't be making money on everything or the same amount of money. Is you have to see the advantage of the product line altogether versus just one of the products. If you look at each one of these products, you may find that some is very low and some is very high. Why? Is because there's an interaction between these products, and some product makes the other one sell. So there's a sort of a group herd effect where some are stopped, maybe not the one that you want to sell very much, but the one you want to make a big return on investment. And some others, you have less of a return investment, but you want to sell more because they're part of your image. More people are buying it, and they are visible in more places. Therefore, they become, they look popular. People like to buy popular goods, and people don't mind a product is mass sold, but they wouldn't want to say, I like mass sold products, is they're more likely to like the fact that it's popular. And so that's sort of a semantic difference, but in practice, a big difference. So that's an example I used last week when we were trying to see and reverse engineer the concept of what was the opportunity. And so for Chambani, the product concept is very important. Making a product that is better, making a product that is different. But the reality as well is the opportunity is if people don't care for better yogurts and they were happy with the type of yogurt that they have right now, you'll have no business. I don't know, you're selling a bag and it's in material, and then you say, hey, why don't we sell it in leather? And then you start selling leather, and you don't sell too many products, but the few that you sell, you make a lot of money. But then you may find that people won't buy this product because leather is not the type of features that they want the product to have. So at the end, it's not what the engineer thinks or the owner of the business thinks, it's what the consumer thinks. If they see it less important having in leather, but they would maybe like the purse much more leather than the duff. duffel bag or whatever, then that's what they say is more important. So Chobani, the center of the, the main reason why they are successful is because they use quality milk in order to make quality yogurt. Those milk are more expensive. Sorry, those yogurt are more expensive. And the reason it's more expensive is because it takes more milk and it takes a better quality of milk. Therefore, these will be more expensive. This example I discussed last week, I talked about this one as well, so I'll just go quick, is the concept of wine, where the consumer didn't want to be drinking, well, they could not because of a legal reason. They had a special event and they could not use glass in that event. They had to use something else. So Underwood came up with the concept of the can to be drinking the wine. Little did they know that this was going to be a revolutionary concept and that was a way that consumers actually were interested to drink wine. And so then they didn't do this just for that event where there's supposed to be no glass. They did it as a main product that they were selling, and eventually that became a major success story for Underwood, which was the fastest growing winery in America, not due to the wine being better, not due to some investors or celebrity, but due to the fact that they had a packaging that was very convenient. This was done by a student at CSUN in the marketing department, where that student decided that the capsules, the cap for the medicine should have a timer, so that way you would know when was the last time that you had you took a pill. What is the opportunity? The opportunity is people don't have a perfect memory. The opportunity is that people forget. And the opportunity is also that it's not recommended to over drug yourself and take too much drugs. So for many reasons, it's not good for your health. So people don't want to take too much drugs. People don't want to get sick by taking too much drugs. People don't want to waste money because we end up taking more drugs. So they want a solution that is easy. How do you make it easy? The client in the class decided to create this concept of product called Time Cap, Eric's Time Cap. And so that product now is in many of the main retailer channel. And the reason is because it serves a purpose. It's not just a product that looks good and you say, why not? Well, maybe, it's not expensive, I'm just going to buy it. So I have it. Is people recognize the value because they recognize that they are not perfect when it comes to remembering everything, and they're going to be trusting the device. And so here you could talk about the difference between the young people. Would the young people buy this product? Not as much as the old people. So the old people will tend to buy more of this product. Old people take more pills, but of 100 people that are young will take a pill, and 100 people that are old will take a pill. The old are the ones that have ran many more times in the situation that they forgot. So they see their need and they see the problem solving more than the falling in love with the solution of the problem. The students that created this probably in love with their idea. But I know, in fact, that this was like the third or fourth entrepreneurial project that the students did. And they didn't do just an entrepreneurial project because they dreamed about it while they were undergraduate. Is they took, as they became more savvy and more experienced, they took projects that they could clearly see the match between problem solving and profit making. You solving a problem and you charging people a fair price for the problem that you're solving. And that fair price is not a deterrent for people to want to buy the product. If you have this magic formula, then all you have to do is make sure that they see it. Make sure they see it for what it does, make sure they see it so they know that if they don't do it right, they will be missing an opportunity. So another example, Martha Stewart. What is Martha Stewart known for? Originally, what was the beginning of Martha Stewart? Why did Martha Stewart became successful at the very beginning? What was she do at the very beginning? Anyone remember?
She was a chef.
Exactly. So at the beginning, she was not. What's interesting is you're right. She was a chef, but she was saying that she was a chef is too much, because a chef is really someone that is highly competent in cooking to the point that they're like a leader. Well, she was a
She
leader.
kind of did like dinner parties and kind of did like home lifestyle sort of things.
Yes, exactly, home lifestyle. So, but she started with the cooking concept, but I don't think she called herself a chef at the beginning, because she was not. A chef is like the most competent person, and she was essentially sort of more competent than the average woman in America at the time. So you have to position yourself back, in the early 70s, maybe late 60s, where um, the gender role was a little different, and there was like women, so maybe their role as being the person cooking, and maybe they didn't see themselves as working as much, and so they had more pressure and maybe responsibility in doing the cooking, and that the cooking was right for their family. So Martha Stewart saw the opportunity that there was recipe books written, but they were written by chefs. And then she said, it's nice that the chef write a recipe book, but maybe the chef should write recipe book for people that want to become a chef, that want to open a restaurant, that want to be recognized as a leader restaurant. I'm going to only go for the average American housewife. And the average American housewife wants a simple cooking recipe that is good. They're not trying to get a 3-star rated Michelin restaurant in New York. They're just trying to feed their family. So she said, I'm going to take the perspective of the common woman wanting to learn from the common woman cook. And then if you think about it, that's kind of interesting. You say, yeah, that's right. It's like learning from a chef, it's intimidating. So she wanted to be just an housewife teaching housewife, and all she had to do is to be 1% better than most people. And then people therefore will learn from her, and it would be simple. So that's how she started. Cooking books, simple cooking books from a simple recipe from someone simple with no pretension, that people felt look like them more than some superstar restaurant chef. Okay? So can you still do these things today? Yes, and that's kind of what's interesting is social media has totally jumped on this concept. I mean, if you take social media influencers, you will find that there's many of these people, if we go back 20 years before, they were unknown. And then the format of, I don't know, 1990, they would not be successful because they don't have the criteria of expertise that were required in 1995. So in 2025, you just, I mean, in some way, fake it, make it is the number one rule for social media. It's just make sure that you look like you know what you're talking about. And eventually, little by little, you will teach yourself. By little, you know more about, because you're doing it more than the people listening to you. And little by little, these people will believe that you are good because everyone is looking at you. Look, you have 100,000 followers. You could not be bad if you didn't have, if you had 100,000 followers. So it's sort of fake it, make it till you make it. And eventually then you probably start having some specialty and expertise, having done it for a long time. And it may be very pragmatic, meaning, you have not got a degree for it. It's all based on the fact that you had to learn by doing it, and then you're translating it to someone else. But it's not because you're doing it something and you're the world best that you can transmit the information. You have to be very good. But I believe, to be honest, what's the most important is not to be the best in the world, but to be the best, have the greatest generosity in how you're sharing it and how you bring it to people. You see this sometimes in sports when you see amazing coaches, and those amazing coaches were not the best athletes in that discipline. They were good, but not. They could have never got even close to the the position and the status that they have as a coach, which means that therefore you could be coaching something much better that you were practicing it yourself. And that's sort of what I'm trying to explain with Martha Stewart. Is if she had been competing as a chef, she probably would have lost. But if she, chef against chef, but she didn't take that perspective. She was just trying to please the common as well, and she was very successful. What's also, she was very successful, and she didn't stop at the cooking, and she quickly developed a concept. And Payam, you mentioned that it was sort of the home lifestyle concept that she developed, where she was helping with the furniture, she was helping with the kitchen design, she was helping with the fashion, she was helping with all these different things. So it was the entire elements of the housewife inside her home and all the recommendations. And obviously, Martha Stewart was not an engineer in the saucepan industry, but she eventually designed saucepan. She was not an engineer in the home kitchen furniture, but because she was asked to do this, she eventually designed it. What's interesting with these people is they're purely entrepreneurs, which means that they will do what it takes to learn, to tell the people what they need to know and go to the essential, and then just be very, very focused. So that's very, very important. Callaway Golf. Has anyone heard of Callaway Golf? Anyone play golf?
I have. I play golf.
Oh, you have. Oh, yes, that's right. I have a golf student in the class for CSUN. So, Gracie, you play golf.
I have a Paradigm driver.
Paradigm driver.
Callaway.
From Callaway.
Callaway Paradigm, yeah.
Yeah. So these are like the newest one.
Yes, sir.
And so, do you remember what made them successful?
Their advertising was very powerful.
Gracie, you also play golf.
I do.
And so, anyone remember that model called the Big Bertha?
I think it was forgiving and more distance.
Yeah, exactly. Forgiving. Yeah. So what happens is, so when did they start with the Big Bertha? If I had to guess, I would say 84, 83, maybe 82.
And they brought it back too.
Yeah, they brought it back. And the reason so Callaway, what were they doing before golf? Anyone knows? So it was a very successful vineyard company making wine. And it was so successful that they made money. And oftentimes when people make money, what do they do if they don't do it before? They play golf. And Mr. Callaway, when he started playing golf, he quickly realized he was not a very good golf player. And what do people do most of the time when they don't play very good golf is they blame the equipment. And he did the same thing that 99.9% of the people do, is they blame the equipment. And in fact, not only he did what everybody does, but he blamed the equipment and tried to come up with a different equipment. And there came his idea of creating Callaway golf equipment. And so at the very beginning, he made equipment that was, I think you just said the word, was very forgiving.
Yep.
So it was the concept of, because before golf was designed not so much to be forgiving, but it was designed for the professionals. So it was constantly designing. It's almost, imagine cars as if they were designing cars to win Indy racing. And every car that they were producing was to win Indy racing. Would this car be convenient for people to go to work? Probably not. To go shopping? Probably not. To go on vacation? Probably not, right? There would be a big roll cage inside, a very noisy, hot exhaust. I mean, not comfortable. But that's what you design when you want to win a race. And so Callaway decided not to make golf better and better and better and better so they could be used better and more by professional people who had different criteria. He went to the people and say, what do you want to do? Do you want to become a professional? Most people don't want to become a professional. Most people want to hit the ball and hope that the ball just goes most straight possible and further as possible. And so he came up with drivers at the beginning, and he called them Big Bertha because they are huge drivers. They are like 2 times the size of the other drivers. So in some way, they look like ridiculous because they are so big. And people at the beginning were wondering, like, what you're going to do with this? It looks like a huge hammer. And then everyone saw their friends play better golf because they made the golf club easier to play versus making the next golf club harder and harder to play, but easier and easier or more efficient for professionals. Most people, if you make golf accessory really good for professionals, can you sustain a business? Probably not, because the professionals is just a small portion of the people. So he went the other way. He made it really golf for the dummies. You know, could have called it golf for the dummies, but the golf is an elitist sport, you know, higher social class sport. So you're not going to call it golf for the dummies. So he called it Big Bertha Callaway. And so you can still buy them. And as you hear, those students are buying the newest version. And so that's where it came from. The same thing in the tennis industry happened at that time, where in fact, before the tennis rackets were in wood, then they went into metal, then different type of metal. But another thing you would have noticed in the 80s is the size of a racket. You look at the racket in 1980 and 1990, 10 years after, the racket is probably 50% bigger. The head of the racket became broader and broader and broader. If you, I don't know, went to jail for 10 years and came out of jail and you were like an avid tennis player, you would have been laughing looking at the head of the racket, thinking, you know, it looks like you're going to go fishing with this or catch butterflies or whatever. They're so big. But then you will watch TV or you go to a competition and all the people would be using those big rackets and the ball will go much faster. And you'll have more effects on the court and more, bigger service and all these different things. So it was a revolution. It was a revolution that was dictated not by the professional user, but it was dictated by the common people. And so you can see a link. Martha Stewart, common people. Callaway, common people. You know. And then what about Tom's shoes? What made Tom's shoes successful at the beginning, you think? In fact, I can't do this right now, but when I asked this, you know, 15 years ago, it was easy because I would say, who's wearing Tom's shoes? 15 years ago, there were people in the room, in the classroom, you know, 150 people in the classroom. There was maybe 15, 20 people wearing Tom's shoes 15 years ago. Today, I probably ask you if anyone is wearing Tom's shoes and there's nobody anymore. So that's interesting. But I'm not saying that nobody buys Tom's shoes anymore, but I'm saying by comparison, 15 years ago, it was 10% of the people sitting in front of me had Tom's shoes at the time of my lecture, versus right now it's less than 1%. But anyone may remember, maybe they are little kids. Why were you wearing Tom's shoes 15 years ago that you don't today? Anyone remembers?
Yeah, they would give a pair of shoes, I think, for every shoe you purchase.
Exactly. You're very correct. Thank you for answering this. They had this concept of they would give one pair of shoes to a poor community or to another country, to someone, every time you would buy a pair of shoes. That was the concept at the beginning. And so people cared to help other people and they found this a solution. So Martha Stewart, what is the opportunity? Martha Stewart is, what would be the opportunity for Martha Stewart? Could anyone come up with this based on what I say? What was the business, the marketing opportunity that made her successful?
I think your cooking show and then the cooking appliances.
So these are the products. The opportunity is that people care for better food. People care to improve their cooking. People care to be a good housewife. Imagine people, nobody cares to be a good housewife. Nobody cares to eat well or eat better. Everyone wants balance of nature. Everybody wants to eat a pill. It's like, what's the best food? Oh, one pill for the day. Would Martha Stewart would have been successful writing books on how to cook better to make your husband happy with you? No. If everyone wants to hit a pill, it doesn't work. So the opportunity is women care to become better, so to be nicer to their husband. That was the opportunity. What about Callaway Golf? What was the opportunity? The fact that made them successful.
Make golfing easier, I guess.
Make golfing easier. There's
Yeah.
people that want to play golf and they just find it a difficult sport, and they would be buying something that made it easier. And in fact, if you go on, I don't know, on YouTube right now and you put golf and you put 2-3 times a search with golf, you're gonna start seeing golf commercials. Right now, if I ask you, do you see golf commercial? You say no. Then you go on Google, you the word 3 times golf, then you're gonna start seeing golf commercials. But
Yes.
you will see,
They do it with everything on YouTube, I believe.
yeah, they do this for everything.
Yeah.
But the point I'm going at is that then you're gonna see that every one of those golf commercial is always buying that putter. It's gonna call the straight putter, the magic putter, the sweet putter, something like that. That it's supposed to be a putter that they put so much design and technology inside that suddenly it's like gonna. All you need to do is touch the ball and the thing goes straight to the hole. And they're gonna say there is like an advanced technological balance. There is a piece of iron which is here and a piece of whatever new metal, copper, steer, this some complicated name with an arch and an angle and it's laser developed or whatever. So that accessory is going to make you become a better, and is this true? Well, if you ask people, if you look at research and you Google research on golf, and is it true that the new golf clubs are so much better than the old golf clubs, you will find that it's mostly in people's head. If they believe that they're using an accessory that is supposed to be the most modern one that was just released a week ago, they're going to magically feel that they are better at what they are doing, because this psychological help of knowing that you have the best of the best, the most current of the most popular, trendy, is very, very important. So accessories, it becomes extremely important when you try to boost people's confidence. And so in golf, this is very important. And that's also the thing, is people go for the fade when it comes to golf. Golf sales equals make a fade. Does it have to be true? Not really. It has to be a fade. It has to be trendy. It has to look like it could work. And so that's very, very important. I sound very pessimistic by saying that, but I'm not saying that if you take a golf club from 1965 and a golf club from 2025, there's no difference. There's going to be differences, but the 2020 and the 2025, probably not. But these businesses, every year, they have to come up with some kind of magic name. The X starts with X1, then it's a double X1, then it's a double X2, and then the triple super turbo X5, then the XL1, 2, and eventually it's almost like it must be funny to work in this industry, because you have to think about what is the next thing I need to say in order to come up with something that sounds better than the thing that I was doing before. And it's all a lot of marketing to support your engineering. And then in addition, when you think about those golf, to come up with something that is dramatically improving from an accessory point of view is very complicated, because it takes a lot of money to really make a significant differences. And it's still a very niche sport. And I mean, we're not talking like going to space. There's very little investment really that is made in research and development to come up with something that is critically changing everything. So it's small, it's very small increments, and it's wishing well increments of things that you say, I don't know if it works, but at least it sounds like it could work. So why not buying it? Sort of thing. Tom's is different. What would be the opportunity behind Tom? Well, Tom is in the clothing and fashion industry. So there's always this opportunity, which is something new. People are looking for new things because there's always people that says, you know what, I can't be wearing the same shoe in 2025 that I was wearing in 1999. I've got to change because of fashion. So when you come up with a new brand, you have this eye opener, this honeymoon of being new, and therefore in fashion, that's magic help at the beginning. So a new brand, you get a little bit of cookie points for being a new brand. But then what else? That's not the only reason. What would be the opportunity that they went for?
Someone commented, but it would be that people want to help.
Exactly. Thank you. I didn't see the comment. Thank you for letting me know. Absolutely. It's this idea that people do care for the welfare of other people. And you know, and I see that sometimes it's very difficult to help because sometimes you feel like the help that you give is questionable help. Do the people you want to help are actually getting all the things that you're giving? I mean, there's so many organizations that we have heard that we've given money for some kind of health research or anything, and then we always worry about, does the money really go to these people? And so here, what's nice is the benefit of saying, I want to help. What can I do to help? Well, if you buy a shoe, there's another shoe that goes to someone else. It's not like there's 10% of the profit for this or $1 for this. It's just another shoe. So it was a very simple way of getting people to want to commit and spend their money on a fashion product that looks different. And it was another thing, maybe that was an opportunity for the product that they were saying at the beginning was that it was a very simple design. You know, they said that they were inspired by shepherd in Patagonia, in South Africa, Argentina, that were taking care of animals in the wild, and the design was very old, vintage design, but at the same time, it was very comfortable. It was very simple. And so comfortable, that's another one. People, there's an opportunity for comfortable. There's an opportunity for simple. There's an opportunity for helping others. So all of these are the opportunities. So I don't know if I captured everybody's attention. I don't know if you've all understood what I'm trying to say, but what I'm going to do right now is kind of crazy, is I'm going to do the same thing in a modest and simple way for the client brand for this semester, OCO. So if we look at OCO, how does that work? So you have your eyes open, and I'm going to use the OCO. So these are correct opportunities. Could you use these in your report? Yeah, you could sort of, you know, word smith them a little differently, so that way you have something different. Could you do a copy and paste? Well, maybe you don't want to do a copy and paste, but one thing is for sure is the references are totally made up references, but I just know them to be true. And if I was to look for the references, I would find the actual references. So the references are irrelevant. What's relevant is the format. This is the correct format where you have a short title in bold underline that summarize the entire description that follows. So that's correct, the format. It's a bullet point. It's simple. It's short. Some are longer. Some are not as long, but it's between 2 to 4 or 5 lines, you know, nothing more like that. So it's within the parameters. So the parameters are respected. The next thing is, so let me do a jump. Because I sort of would like to go away from this, but I usually can't, because then there's the draft. And then within the draft, there's 50% of the draft that is a mess. Why is it a mess? Because in the opportunities, they tell me what OCO should do. Do not tell me what OCO should do in the opportunities. Do not. In the opportunities, do not give me the ideas of what OCO should do. In the opportunities, just talk about facts, facts which are in the environment. So that's the other part that is correct here. These are just facts. The word OCO does not appear anywhere, and it doesn't need to appear anywhere. OCO is irrelevant in the opportunities in mentioning OCO. I don't have to. It's not necessary. So let's look at them. And so I just want to say that they're correct, but they are not creative or super relevant and not at all disruptive. They're just correct, but not disruptive. So it's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's like me telling you that you should get a bachelor at CSUN because CSUN is an ASASB accredited school. Why would this not be relevant? Because that's what you're doing right now. So me giving you a recommendation, like I meet young people, and because I'm a professor, they ask me, oh, I want to study this and that. And I have recommendation for universities where they should go. But it's kind of too late to recommend someone to go to a university where they are on the third year or the fourth year of their university. It's really too late. So here is the same thing. These are good opportunities, but they are too late to give to the client because they are exactly the reason why, I guess, this client is in business. So city water quality is being questioned. The quality of municipal water is becoming an issue in many cities across the US, according to that source. A recent water quality survey from the Consumer Report from that date have revealed that X% of the municipal water surveyed show above average contaminants in the municipal waters, according to the criteria set by the US Bureau from 2015. So is this an opportunity? Well, of course, because we're trying to sell a bottle that self-filters the water. So it's an opportunity, the fact that the water from the city is becoming terrible everywhere, obviously. So we are really not in a position of as dramatic to say, and I'm exaggerating, to say that the water is disgusting and dangerous from every source of water, like you probably have 50% chance to survive. We're not that far. If we are that far, we probably will not be recommending the same thing as we're going to recommend to this business. This business is rolling in a situation where it's sort of bad, but it's not as bad as this. I forgot the name of the city, but there was a city, I think it was the first place where Donald Trump went, like the day after he was elected or something, in North Carolina or whatever. And they went to this place because they had all kinds of issues with storms and the contamination of their water or whatever. So obviously they are in big trouble, and they probably will benefit more from OCO, which kind of make me think about another opportunity right now, which would be, crisis, like a huge climate crisis have generated a growing need for filtered water available immediately. And so I'm not saying OCO, but then that fact then will generate a business idea that I have, which would be to try to sell the water to the government, maybe like to FEMA. So FEMA is an organization, the government organization, that react to crisis. Every time there's like a flood, a fire, an earthquake, some kind of situation like that, FEMA is the office that comes to help people get some level of comfort, and so they can survive. And one of the things that they do is they provide free water. They provide free water, free housing, free food. And so instead of providing free water, it'd be interesting for them to provide maybe a bottle that will help filter the water. And so therefore you would, because there's places where there's still access to the water, but obviously the water is very questionable because of the flood or because of the fires or something. And that would be the opportunity to have people more responsible and with maybe a less limited amount. Because if you provide mineral water, they can drink it right away. But then once they finish the bottle, they sort of don't have anything else. So here we give them more control, more independence, and maybe access to more water, having just needing any type of water in order to survive. I don't know if you heard that one. It's not in here. I just thought of this as I'm doing it. Next one, increasing price for water bottle. So water bottle price have increased by X percentage. I just made it up in the past 5 years, according to Nielsen. So I'm not trying to tell you that you can make up numbers, but I know it for a fact that prices of things have gone up. And so therefore, if water bottle prices go up, that's an opportunity for someone to come up with a way of reducing your consumption of bottled water and therefore saving money by using a cheaper option for drinking water, right? But and then next one, plastic contaminants. The type of plastic used to bottle water bottles is believed to be affecting the taste of water. That's one thing, the taste, and possibly the purity of the water, according to recent research. So, what possibly the purity. So there's all kinds of sources. I mean, there's sources that are really scary. You see what you could get from the fact of the plastic, and we're talking about some serious health issues. And I don't know if it's as bad to that extent. So I didn't want to take a position on that. They are saying, you're going to get cancer from drinking plastic bottled water. But there is some sources that say that. But I just wanted to say that there's health concerns and some serious health concerns that require to be questioning the using plastic bottle. Anyway, another one. In addition, the longer the bottle are stored, the bigger these issues to be expected. So that's also what's interesting is bottled water in a plastic bottle is a problem in itself, but there's another problem, which is that the longer you wait, the bigger you observe that problem. And there's another one I don't want to put there, but if the water is in a source of heat or direct sunlight, it also increases the impact of the water, of the plastic on the water that the bottle is containing. So it's not in there, I'm just telling you. So why would the plastic contaminant be an issue? I'm confused because our bottle is still using plastic. So why talking about the plastic bottle be a problem when we're also using a plastic bottle?
It's like a BPA free bottle, I think.
Yes, exactly.
But they could also use like metal the way that like a Stanley or a Hydro Flask does, and then put a filter on top of that.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
Bichet, you solve two problems. Is one, they use a plastic which is not the one supposed to create all those problems. So obviously they took advantage of that opportunity already, and they recognize that opportunity. And in fact, I think it's even on the drawing. It's very small on the screen right now, but if I zoom, the drawing is actually, I'll go to the next one, to the one before. The drawing is actually talking about the benefits of the bottle. Well, it's actually not on the drawing, but I saw it somewhere where they talk about the type of plastic that they use, which is, as you mentioned, something like BPA free or whatever. But then you say, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we change the container and come up with a version of the OCO in glass based on that opportunity? And then I say, bingo, that's your project. That's what you need to come up with. You need to come up with a fact and then come up with a solution. And so we already have one there. And the next one, unethical practices from water corporation. Independent journalists have discovered cover-ups by one of the major water bottling company, which is negatively impacting consumer views on the value of purchasing mineral water from large corporations. And I just use 60 Minutes, that's one of these organizations you would see. Again, if you were to Google this, you find within a few seconds many sources, not just one, that talks about that big cover-up. I believe it was Nestle. So Nestle is not a small company. It's probably if not the biggest, one of the biggest in the world. And they have many brands of water mineral water, not just one. And they even have brands of municipal water, which means that they take water from the city, they filter it, and they put it in the water. Or they take the water from a natural spring well, and they bottle it and they sell it. So I mean, it's one of the biggest food and beverage corporation in the world. So there are many type of products that they offer it. They've been found doing questionable processes and so forth, which has created a number of people to wonder, is it worth still buy bottled water? So are these correct? Yes. Could we use them? Yes, but make sure you get the right references and change the words. But why are these, even though correct and all this, the project is, it's not like I did the project for you and you sort of run on and you've done 50% of the project. Why is this not completing 50% of your project and you still need to find more and other opportunities? Why?
Maybe advancements to the product or better use cases.
Well, my question is, why are these not great? They're not great because they only justify the product the way it is today. Or it was yesterday, or it was a month ago, or it was a year ago. It hasn't changed for a year. I don't know if it has changed for 2 years, but just for the sake of a bet, this picture is a picture that was exactly the same on their web page a year ago. So whatever is the reason why they created OCO, it was based on these characteristics. And therefore, when our position is not to confirm that they should be selling OCO and saying, hey, good job, you've got a good idea. There is supporting evidence. Is they're now asking us to tell them what they already know. These opportunities are the ones that they're using. These are the opportunities that they're surfing with the product since they've started launching this product. Our job is not to sort of reinvent history. Our job is to find the opportunity for them to ship, to fly towards the future, to excel and to develop towards the future. We're not trying to explain the past. We're trying to predict the future. Right? So all of these, they just support the fact that it's okay. It's like saying, gas prices are going up, and then we go to Tesla, and we say, hey, you should be selling an electric car. I think you should start considering selling an electric car. Go to Tesla and Elon Musk and you tell them that, and you see if they think you're brilliant. They're going to say, sorry, but I've started thinking about this 30 years ago. You're 30 years late. Your opportunities are correct, but they are 30 years late, right? So these opportunities are correct, but they are many years late. You're justifying the past, the reason why they went to all the trouble creating this brand. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to find the same thing to justify the future direction, what they should be doing in the future. And I'm confused. Can we use them or we can't use them? You can use them, but don't think they're going to help you write the future. I mean, what is going to be your strategy from this? There's nothing beside one that we just discussed a few seconds ago. I think it was Bichet saying maybe you make a version in glass. It's true. I don't think OCO is doing a glass right now. Maybe that would be an idea.
I said metal, like a hydro flask or a Stanley.
Yeah, you could even do metal if you want. But what is the problem with metal? What's the most common metal?
It's more expensive than the other material.
It's more expensive. But what is the number one metal name used in order to make flasks? It starts with an A.
Yeah,
Aluminum.
Aluminum, yeah. Aluminum. So if you have a few seconds, you put on Google, is aluminum healthy for consuming, for eating and drinking? And you're gonna get a big surprise. It's not.
Yeah,
Could it be
releases
worse?
chemicals.
Yeah, it releases chemicals. In some way, I don't know which one is the worst, plastic or aluminum. I mean, I don't even know if anyone knows, but I can tell you that there's a lot of research that says plastic is bad, and there's a lot of research that says the aluminum is bad. But then you say, yeah, but people don't know. That's true. And then I'd say, you know, which one they know the less? Oh, too many people know about the plastic, so we should not do that one. They already know about aluminum. It's really bad for them, but they don't know. Therefore, let's do it until they figure it out. I guess that's a lot of business do that. I mean, I get it. You could do it until they figure it out. And then when they figure out, you do something else. You buy time. You get rich. I mean, you could get rich for 15 years before they figure out. I don't know when it's going to be illegal, but if you do a research, you'll find that it's already in the radar of most health organizations in the world. But being in the radar doesn't mean they're going to stop it. The organizations are oftentimes very slow at reacting to things, very slow for many reasons. And so then you can say, okay, so let's do the glass. At least there's seems to be no risk with the glass. Yeah, well, the glass, you know, unless you have how is it called, lead, you know, but lead glass is it's for crystal. But if you don't sell crystal a container, there's no lead, and therefore you should be fine, you know, until maybe in 50. I think it'll take a long time before we figure this maybe something fine, and maybe there'll be nothing fine. Maybe ceramic. You could say, why don't we do ceramic? Well, that's a good idea. So see the discussion we're having just right now, that's very interesting because it suddenly, it says, even if those opportunities are correct, but they sort of confirm the past and therefore they can't really help it in the future. Yeah, the plastic contaminant one maybe is giving us some direction that is interesting. But I don't really want to do the project for you and then you don't understand why this is important. I want you to go into the intellectual exercise of understanding in businesses like this. Find some opportunities. The better the opportunity, the bigger the argument to support why your business exists. And why, if it exists, let's say it doesn't exist. Sometimes it's a startup. It's like a Shark Tank. Sometimes it's just an idea. But it's an idea based on a fact that supports your plan, your business plan. Do you have a business plan? Yes. What's your business plan? It's in my head. And what is it? It's an idea. And how did you come up with the idea? I dreamed the idea. Go away. I don't want to invest in someone's dream. Now, this next person. What do you want to do? I have this research that I did, and I found the consumer wants X, Y, Z, and I found that nobody has X, Y, Z. I found that the problem is R, and I'm going to create P in order to take care of R, and I will do it in a way that is profitable. Boom. That's the one I want to invest in. Because it's not based on someone's emotional, ego-centered ID concept. It's based on the market. The market wants this. And I'm the one that discovered this. And I'm the one that conceptualized the solution to the problem. But I'm in love with the problem and I don't care of the solution. But as of today, that's the best solution. And I have a patent and I hold the patent on that solution. And as of today, that patent, that solution is the best one. And I need this much money in order to invest in that solution. That's all you want to say. That's simple. That's Shark Tank 101. Okay. So, just before we take a break, I would just want to finish on these. These are this is a client that we did maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, and it's a very massive company called Ferrero. And when I say massive company, it was what, like, it was big. It was more than $10 billion. It was really big. I mean, more than $10 billion is a big company, I think. And so they sell their product in every country. I mean, I think there's 200 countries. They sell in every country. I'm sure 50% of the students in the class have had Nutella. From South America, the number is even bigger, I suppose. But anyway, from Europe, it's probably 99%. And so it's a product people like in general. And sometimes the people beyond like is that absolutely fan of it. They think it's the best thing. It's better than peanut butter for some people. And so we took this project with the class and we found there was many solutions, but we also found that this product, once you start looking into it, it's not the best product. Best product in terms of the amount of sugar that it uses and in terms of the fat, the grease that it's using. But when you look at the grease, the type of grease they use palm oil. So the issue here is not only this product is not good for your health, but it's also not good for the environment. What do you mean? Well, palm oil is the oil that they use. And the problem with palm oil is it's made from palm trees, but certain palm trees. And those certain palm trees are mostly in a few countries. It's not like every country has the palm tree that you could use, you know, less than 10 countries. And the big problem as well is that you need to cut a lot of palm trees to make just a little bit of oil. But those countries tend to be countries where there's a inexpensive employment and also little regulation in terms of the impact on the environment. So they plant in some ways that are questionable. They cut the trees in some ways questionable, and the whole thing is questionable. And eventually you end up with a very cheap oil, which tastes good, but it's not very good for your health. And there's all kind of drama, unethical drama that comes with it. So obviously, once we identify this with the students, the thing that I didn't know from the get-go, we just thought that there should be better solutions. And so then we looked for the solution and we came up with the solution. And it's very interesting because like I said, it's been 10 years, probably 10 or maybe 12 years since we did this project. And Nutella has not come up with a solution. However, what's interesting is that there are other companies that identified the problem and they have come up with solutions. And here you could say, how come these companies have come up with the solution, but Nutella have not come up with the solution? So they saw the opportunity. They came up with a product that answers, and you see it's written in French on it because unfortunately, the country that started making no palm oil, Nutella or not chocolate type of spread, only in France for the right now. But anyway, and Italy, I think, is doing it as well. But not everyone, and not Nutella is doing it. So why would you say that Nutella has not done it and is letting all kinds of smaller brands do it? Nobody knows. So because the center of business is the customer. The customer is the boss. The customer is always right. And so therefore, if the customer doesn't see the fact that there is palm oil in the product as a problem, and they don't see it as a big problem, they're not going to look for a solution. So they won't change. Very rarely the customer, I'm talking in masses, you know, 1 or 2 in America, it's possible, but very rarely the customers will make a change. The customers are a lot like group thinking. So they're going to do something that is good. Unfortunately, not so much because it's good, but because there's a lot of people that start going in that direction. And then they want to follow that direction. And then they will pretend that they're doing it because it's good. But the reality is people are heard. And when there's a good decision and a bad decision, oftentimes as an individual, they're just going to wait to see what everybody's decision they need to make. So that's why the big company doesn't see that the market is asking for a change. And it's a company, you know, that I suppose like to make profit. So they're going to have a bigger listening to the people that they have to give money, the shareholders who are looking for profit more than the customers who are not asking for this change. So it's like, why would you want to do something that is going to damage your business to help the customer to do something that is better for them when they don't even ask for it? You're stupid. That's the thing. I'm not saying what I think. I'm telling you what most business people think. They say, stupid. Think about yourself. Customers not asking for it. Therefore, focus on the fact that you keep making profit. Keep making profit until they come around and tell you enough is enough. No, we want this, otherwise we go somewhere else. Or they are slowly go somewhere else. And then you get the message and then you make the change and say, hey, come back. We've made the change. No need to go somewhere else. Most businesses are like this. They're not very proactive when it comes to making better ethical decisions. It's the customer that has to make the choices. And that's why the biggest vote that you can have is the vote with your wallet. Your wallet is your biggest source of vote. Vote with your money. Is where you have your money is that really what talks. Okay. So a lot of what I talked about until now is this concept of ethics, the concept of developing products, the concept of letting the market dictate, the concept of the SWOT analysis, the concept of the opportunity, the fact that the opportunity are facts and not ideas. In the opportunities, you don't say what you're going to do. In the opportunities, you just state black on white changes that are happening that you can eventually take advantage of in order to use those opportunities as the pillar that will support the direction of your business. Okay, so that's sort of the summary of everything that we've seen. Hopefully, there's some people that start to see the importance of all of this, because that's really the business 101, is give them what they want and give them what's right. That's the ethical part. And eventually you will develop a relationship, a trust relationship, and eventually they will see the authenticity of your brand. And eventually you're going to grow your brand as you're growing this rapport with your customers. And eventually they're going to care for you because they see that you're truly caring for them. And that becomes your point of leadership. And that's why marketing is beautiful, is because you can change the world with marketing. You can change the world in the way you see the world should be in your eyes, in your perspective. So it's a very powerful technique, understanding of the economy and the relationship with the customers that helps you draw attention and drive your community and the people that you care for towards something that you believe in. As a business person, what you're trying to do is to make better decisions. And to make better decisions, you need better information. And the better information comes from you collecting information, and having better information makes you more likely to make better decisions. So there's nothing that you can do that will give you 100% certainty in what you do, but you try to minimize risks. You try to optimize your decision to ensure that you're making better decisions. That's the whole concept behind marketing research. So marketing research is the systemic and objective identification, collection, analysis, and reporting of information for the purpose of assisting management in making better decisions, where they look for problems, where they look for solutions. That's really what's important. What are my problems? What are my solutions inside this research? So where can you find information? You can find information in the data that you have collected, the data that exists, the data on your clients. You know, who's buying, who's recently buying, who's buying the most, who's buying more regularly, what are they buying, what they said that they could want and they couldn't get, you know, what are the trends that I have in my own databases, in my own information system. Then you have the second one is marketing intelligence. So what's the difference between marketing intelligence? So marketing intelligence is collecting continuously research. It's observing. So I'm just going to summarize it into this concept of observing. Versus marketing research is you don't do it all the time. You do it only if you have a specific question. So what's the difference between marketing research and marketing intelligence? Is one is done continuously versus the other one is just done when you have a certain question that you want to be answered. The big difference is one is a constant scanning of your environment, observing for changes, because you don't want to only do research on specific things. Is you want to do also have a research that looks broadly on everything in order to take advantage, seize advantage of the things that are changing and that you could be at the very early stage of those changes. So it's important to see marketing intelligence as looking at the industry trends, looking at the consumer trends, identifying the changes that the government may have, looking for the resources, the innovation, the technology. There may be changes that you can take advantage of. You may also review and observe your competitors, see if they are doing certain innovations, things that they said they do and that they do well, and things that they think is the future. So obviously you have to be very careful, because not all the information is objective. There may be information that is created to divert your attention as well, or to make you to pretend to do something, but they are doing something else. Not everything is as clear cut. Marketing research is therefore not looking broadly and constantly. Marketing research is done for a specific purpose that comes from a specific situation where there is a date where you need this information in order to make a decision. Sometimes with marketing research, you actually end up having more questions than answers to your questions, but you have some answers to your questions. So marketing research is more focused, is more targeted, versus marketing intelligence is more of a discovery. It doesn't go as deep. It's not as precise. It's not definitely not as focused. So that's the difference. An internal database is just mining what you have, mining the database that you have. So there may be database that you want that you don't have, and therefore that's when you need to go in marketing research to create that database in order to mine it. Or you have some information that comes from marketing intelligence, a change that you test in your database before you test it by doing a proper research of it. Or maybe you collect data that is already existing. So existing data is called secondary data, versus primary data is the data that you have to collect. Advantage of secondary data is already exists. Advantage of primary data is less biased and maybe more precise to the problem that you're trying to solve. There are, so what is it that you do when you collect the data yourself? You have two types of research, qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative is you will be collecting data by mostly talking directly one-on-one with the customers. So you are interviewing your customers as an individual, interviewing the customers as a group of customers within a discussion where you do have questions. But those questions are mostly open-ended questions. You know, why do you go shop at the farmer's market? Which farmer's market do you go to? How often do you go to? So how often do you go, and where do you go? That these are close-ended, and they could be coming from a survey. But why do people go to the farmer's market? Should start from an open-ended discussion with customers, and then collect the reason of why do they go to a farmer's market, and then put the main reason why do they go to the farmer's market in a survey that you give to 1,000 people. And then you will try to find out what are the most common answer to this question of why do they go to the farmer's market. That's quantitative research. Quantitative research is you focus on the numbers, and you focus on the statistical analysis of the numbers, versus qualitative research is you try to identify hypotheses. You try to identify some of the most common answers. You try to understand why people do things, because you're able to speak to the people. So you're able to make interpretation at the time of the discussion to come up with the next questions and try to go deeper in people's reasoning, versus with quantitative, you're not going to go deep. So that's why you need to have the qualitative research done first in order to digest it into a set of potential most common answer. And then that doesn't require much analysis of the customers. These are the answer. There is one, agree, two, disagree, and three, I don't know. And then you find out, I often go to the farmer's market because I want to find fresh products. I agree, I disagree, I don't know. And so that's what you try to do is to find reliable statistical data to be able to come up with some percentage of this exact group of people said that, that other group, you know, female said this and male said this. Okay. So you have, therefore, when you go do research, an issue is the time that you have and the amount of details that you want to collect. So exploratory research is less time, less, well, in fact, there's a lot of detail in exploratory research, so that would not be true. It's, in terms, maybe is the issue of time and the issue of the statistical significance and the type of control that you want to have on the various bias of the research. So you have more bias at the top exploratory research that you have in causal research. Causal research, you have less bias. You have more statistical significance in causal and descriptive that you would have in exploratory. But the true reason why people do things are very difficult to infer when you're looking at descriptive and causal research. I use the word appropriately by saying infer, because you can only infer, you have no real level of certainty. So people like to think in terms of certainty, but the reality is it all depends on the quality of the research. The better the quality of the research, the more you have certainty, but you never have 100% certainty. You just have more certainty, and the better your research. But the better your research, the more you would have an exploratory and a descriptive, an exploratory and a causal research, and sometimes an exploratory, a descriptive, and a causal research. So the difference is exploratory is you just collect secondary data and you satisfy and you make decisions for this. Why? Because you don't have much time. Because you don't have to have a high level of certainty. Because you don't want to spend, you don't have the budget. So you only collect existing data. Exploratory research. No, it's better is to say, I'm going to use existing data, but at the same time, I'm also going to collect some data myself so I can have some impact on the bias, minimizing the bias, because there's more bias by using someone else's information. And using your own information, there's less biases. So you say, I'm going to do secondary data, and I'm going to do, you know, secondary data of large studies with tens of thousands of people. So I have a huge, have an information based on a large data set, so it's more reliable. But they may be biased, so then I interview a few people. And then if I start seeing answers that are consistent with the big data set and consistent across the different interviews, then I have a pretty high level of confidence in the validity and the reliability of this information in order to make optimal decisions. But then you may say, no, it's exploratory research, meaning collecting existing data and just asking a few questions to a few people is not enough. So I need to go into descriptive research, and descriptive research is the most common one is a survey. So you're going to ask 1 page of questions to hundreds, thousands of people. And this large database, almost you could say, imagine you could say that I've asked 1,000 people, and of the 1,000 people, nobody told me the truth. But the truth is across, means that not everybody could have lied on question 2. People lied across the questions, but the large number, the average of the large number is going to be what is the truth. You know, what is your favorite length of shorts? You're going to have people that are going to be very short for short and people that are going to be very long for short. And the reality is going to be in the middle. Now you have to be careful because you may get a reality which is a sort of the universal, the standard, the common, the average reality, but it may not be the reality of your target. So your target may not have an average interest, and they may have an outlier interest, and therefore you won't please them by having something that's standard. And so you have to be very careful with this. Causal research, what is it? So causal research is the research the students are less likely to do, because it's also called experimental research, is when you're doing a research within a format of a simulation where people are subject to different treatments. And so you're going to make several groups of people. And this again is a quantitative research. So exploratory research is secondary data and qualitative. Descriptive and causal research are only primary data, but quantitative data, not qualitative, meaning surveys from the simplest basic summary of what you do. So a survey, it's a questionnaire where you have multiple questions, and most of the questions should really be close-ended, where people ask a question and there's only one question within each question. It's not like, do you prefer cheese or eggs? That's like two questions. So, and then the answer is, strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. It's like, you prefer cheese or eggs? We don't know. No. Well, the most tasty food is cheese and eggs. Strongly agree, strongly disagree. We don't know which one you agree the most. So you have to be careful that the questions are single questions, that people understand them as one question, so they understand the question, not something else. And then there are close-ended answers. That's preferable. It's better if you have a questionnaire like this. Could you have a few open questions in a questionnaire? You could. The issue is the interpretation of the open question is complicated and also cannot be done by a computer. And therefore, you have to have some people that will be judging those open-ended questions. So in causal research, you are working with quantitative. You're going to have large data samples. You're going to break them into several groups. One group, let's say you do 300 people. So you're going to do 3 groups of 100. And there's going to be one group that is called the neutral, which means that you won't give them any treatment. And then you're going to have group A that will receive treatment A and group B that will receive treatment B. You want to make sure that those groups are homogeneous, same age group, same social class, same gender, same level of education. And then you're going to ask them different questions. And you would hope that the experiment is going to show that treatment A and B have a bigger effect than the group that got no treatment. So let's say you're a Super Bowl agency and you're trying to work on an ad, and you have an ad that is funny, and you have an ad that is using sex as a method of getting attention and helping memorize the information. And so you don't know if at the Super Bowl, you should use the more sexual or the more funny ad. So you do a test before. So you show all kinds of movies and visual things, and then you show group A, the ad A, which is funny, group B, the ad B, which is the sexual arousal, and then you show the group C, which doesn't see your ad, and you have to show that they have the same perspective before and after for the group C, because they haven't seen your ad, and their perception of that brand doesn't change. But in group A and B, there will be a difference in the perception and the remembrance, and the memorization of the information in the various ads is different in the group A and B, which people that receive a different ad. And then you will conclude that the one where people had their mind changed the most after seeing the ad is the one that was the most effective. Because a Super Bowl ad is going to cost you $10–15 million. You want to make sure that your ad is the one that has the biggest impact. So you're not going to come up with one ad and put all your eggs in one basket. You're going to want to test different ads with different messages and different concepts in the ads. Okay. So that's what causal research is going to do. Causal research is used for this, for comparing prices as well, for comparing different designs, different concepts, different packagings, all of this. can be done through causal research. And it's very appropriate for this experimental design and looking at different things across and comparison. With the descriptive research, you're only going to mostly focus on collecting a lot of data on various questions, and then try to make interpretation of crossing this data with a different type of response. Because when you have a questionnaire, you always ask the people, you know, what's your age, what's your zip code, what's your gender, what's your social class, what's your ethnicity, what's your income, what's your level of education, you know, what are your hobbies, what are the various products, you know, what are your hobbies? So you have a pre-selected list of hobbies. What are your favorite brands and products, you know, so you put different brands, and yet then you have some kind of stereotype of the people that would buy one brand compared to another. And from this psychographics, the different personas of customers, different targets, you would try to associate these people with different answers and say, you know, younger men said that, older, educated, women with, I don't know, Hispanics prefer this. And then you try to connect those preferences, those perspectives, those opinions with a different group of customers. Obviously, the less question you have and the more people you have, the more reliable is information. The more question you have and the less people you have, the less reliable the information, because you get a lot of very few answers for each one of the questions. The more people are answering each questions, the higher the reliability. When you do a questionnaire and you do this, is you want some rotation of the question inside the questionnaire. The reason is that you don't want to have questions that usually at the end, there's like a fatigue, being tired, and people will answer the last questions done as well. So you want to rotate somewhat the questions in order to avoid any bias in the research. So this slide is particularly interesting because it shows the three levels of research and the importance and the pros and cons of each one of them. When it comes to the 304 class, I recommend to use just the first one, the first layer, the exploratory research. So what do I mean? I mean, don't do a survey, don't do a survey, don't do a survey, don't do a survey, don't do a questionnaire, a survey, same thing. Do not do a questionnaire, because if you do a questionnaire, you're gonna have to do the exploratory research first anyway, which means you're gonna have to do an interview, look at secondary data, and then make a questionnaire, and then get 100 and 200 people, then interpret the questionnaire, then come up with a report on the answers of the questionnaires. Never, pretty much never, I can say, anyone has done a good job at doing this. But most of the time, what people do is they create a questionnaire and they do collect data on the questionnaire, having not done the exploratory research, which you have to do. So I would rather have groups do the exploratory research and do it well, instead of spending, I don't know, 3 hours of work, let's say even 6 hours of work on the questionnaire. I would rather have you spend 6 hours of work on the qualitative research, the exploratory. Because if you do 6 hours on the exploratory, you're still going to have to do 6 hours on the descriptive. And at the end of the day, finding a big amount of time to do both is very rare. So I would rather, instead of paying 6 or 12 or whatever, spend half on just the top line, just collecting secondary data, which is relevant, making some inferences, making some assumptions on this, you know, finding some result, and then go into interviewing one person, and then another person, and then another person, and then another person. So you have interviewed these 4 people, and now with questions, you know, you don't go there unprepared and hope for the best. You do have to prepare questions, but you're not collecting the answers and say 4 people say yes to that question. Question 2 people said yes, 2 people said no. So that's 50-50. Don't, the percentage cannot be used when you have 4 people. You can only use percentage when you use 100 and more people. And then you can talk about 100. Out of 100, there's 5 that said that 100. There's 25 that said this. But when you can say out of 100, there's 2 that said that and 2 that said that. It's out of 100. You ask 4 people. How could it be out of 100%? percent, there's X percent for this. It makes no sense. It makes no sense, but students do it all the time. Ask 10 people and then use out of 10 people, 9 said this, 1 said that. So 9 out of 100 said that. But you had 10. Why do you say percent per 100? It makes no sense. So yeah, that's we see it all the time. And so you have to be careful if you have less than 100 people, it's a qualitative research. And then you may say, what about if I have 89 people? Well, sometimes research cannot have large numbers, and you have to do qualitative research. Qualitative research with a small number doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that you have to be recognizing the bias. Every research has a bias. Research with 10,000 people have a bias, and they may not be as bad as good as a research with 16 people, because you have to think about the bias and how bad is this bias for what you're trying to do. How important is that bias for what you're trying to do? So if you're looking at frequencies, how often people go to the farmer's market, and you ask 4 people to try to imagine how many, the main reason why people, or how often people go to the farmer's market, asking 4 people, that's a terrible method for doing that. Then you have no other choices than doing descriptive research. So depending on the question, some research are better than others, but all research are not perfect. There's just some better research. Do I have any questions on this slide? And on the concept of data being secondary, primary, data being quantitative, qualitative. I mean, I go rather quickly over this. I may bring it back again in a video that I will supply. And there's already a video that I have, a pre-made video that I have on research, and I think it's explained. I recommend you go look at that video. It's going to be 10 minutes or less, and it goes into marketing research. And why not hearing it a second time? But it's important to see the pros and cons of each one of the methods, and the fact that they bring benefits each one depending on what you're trying to do. So as a summary of this is, therefore you have your database, you have marketing intelligence, which is continuously looking for information, and then you have marketing research, which is that you have a question and you're trying to find the answer to your question. And it's right now, and you can't wait too long, and you can't take the risk of not collecting an answer to that question. So you want to collect it. When you do this, you have the easiest one is, let's say, Google. You have Yahoo, and you just put it in a search engine, and then you get your secondary data. You have ChatGPT, and you put it inside this secondary data software, and they will give you an answer. But then you just say, you know what, I can't trust ChatGPT, I can't trust Google, I can't trust Yahoo, I cannot trust someone else work. I have to collect it myself. And for many reasons, I will go into primary data collection, collecting it myself. What are the 2 methods? You have quantitative and qualitative. With quantitative, you can do the descriptive research, which is doing the survey, and the experimental research, which is to do a lab experiment through a simulation. And in the qualitative data, you have an interview of one person or interview of a group of people, which is called focus group. In the descriptive, you have the traditional survey, but you have another one called observational data research. So observational research is when you actually video people's behavior. So let's say you change the furniture and the signage inside the supermarket, and you actually video people to see. And you see people behavior based on those modification of the gondolas and the aisles and the displays, the merchandising is being changed, and you just observe people behavior based on the change of merchandising. So that's observational, which means it's part of descriptive, which means you're gonna have to do it for 101 person in order to be descriptive, which means it's quantitative, which means it's going to have a percentage per 100%. And so experimental research is doing research by, having a simulation. So you can do a simulation with a computer, because you put people through scenarios and then they give you an answer, they watch videos. Or you can simulation by putting people in an environment. So you rent a supermarket for the evening, and then you get people to pretend to shop in the supermarket, and you collect information and try to put them into different roles in order to see their behavior. Yes. Any question on the marketing research? I'll try to explain it in the most practical way, and not give you all kinds of formula and discuss too much the different survey methods, looking at the different population and how you measure representativeness by a formula, and ask you to remember a bunch of formula, because I know you remember them maybe for the exam, but the day after the exam you remember nothing. So there's no need for this. I'm more interested in you understanding those different tools and their value in business, because this, I'm not trying to turn you into a research academics, even though you could use what I said, academia, it would be the same, but more importantly, I think at this time, more likely that what you'll be using it for, it's for being practical in your business and trying to make the best decisions, and not doing all of this just because you think you have to do it, but because you see the benefit of doing them. So I'm just checking to see if there's a question maybe in the chat. Okay. All right, so I keep on going. Now I'm going to jump into something else. I'm going to jump into the strategy section. So the strategy section is a section where being organized makes a big difference. And the organization is something I've talked a number of times. It's not easy. It's related to the concept of what is big and what is small. What fits into something bigger. It's this concept of the embedment. One it fits is embedded in another, that is embedded in another, and all that. So it's like you have the bigger plan, which takes smaller plans, which takes smaller, until you have like, what do I do in the next 5 minutes versus what do I do now to see the result in 1 year? So what I do now to see the result in 1 year, that's the strategy. What I do now to see the result in 5 minutes, that's the tactics. And that's why I have those Madrushka, Russian dolls, because they are smaller dolls that embed into bigger dolls. So it's almost like you have it's this concept of folder. Is your folder, subfolder, 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 and they all are connected, but within the folder, so that way you can retrieve information. And it's using common sense. So you have the strategy, and inside the strategy, you have sub-strategy, and inside the sub-strategy, you have tactics. And the tactics also break down into actions. Action, tactics, sub-strategy, strategies. Even if you can just repeat that, because at least you will have the intellectual memory of the name. Strategy, sub-strategy, tactics, actions. And those folders and subfolders is where you can have the different people at lower level taking care of different level actions that would serve the purpose of the objective of a higher level, which will be represented by different things that they do. And so somehow it's always interesting that it's true, it's more physical as lower as you get, and it's more intellectual as higher as you get. So for example, you probably will be typing more the lower you have, and you will be talking more the higher you are. The higher you are, the more you speak to large audiences. The lower you are, the less you speak to large audiences. So you do not supervise as many people. And so the more you supervise people, the more you're higher level. And the more you supervise people, the more you're thinking or acting at a strategic level. If you supervise 2 people, in a large corporation, you are not strategically involved. So Nestle, we talked about Nestle. You work at Nestle and you supervise 2 people. You're not doing any strategies. But if you work at Nestle and you supervise 10,000 people, you're doing strategies. And if you supervise, you're both 50,000 people, you're doing strategies. But the less people you supervise, the more you are working on tasks that were given to you, and they're very immediate, and they have an immediate response. You know, it's like someone, I don't know, screwing bolts on a factory, building a solar panel. And they say that they're working on the climate and fair climate and sustainability. No, they're just bolting bolts. Could be any bolts. They have a very, very indirect impact on the strategy for the universe. It's a very small task, but they can see the task. So the beauty is they see it because they have an unbolted bolt and they bolt it and then it's done. So it's very immediate versus the person that's going to be in strategy. It's going to have a lot of stamina to see what they are working on unfold, because it take weeks, months, years to unfold. So it's much more, seems less objective. And so that you're working on this long-term, very visionary type of person. And so that's why it's very important when you are a higher executive, is to be able to speak to a lot of people, and the more people you speak to, the more impact you can have, and the more that means that you're on an executive order, and oftentimes, you know, that translates to making more money as well. And that's sort of true, is you speak, if you spoke and you are listened by a lot of people, means that you're more likely to make a higher amount of money. Which doesn't mean that people that speak to smaller groups don't make much money or are less valuable. It's just the level of popularity and the level of the group being more specialized or being less specialized. Right? So now, how does that translate in business? So in business here, beside the HR and beside management, we're transferring to the concept of strategies versus tactics. So it's very important to see that there are 2 different things, but they're connected. The tactics are what you need to do in order to achieve the strategies. And the strategies is what you will end up once you've completed the tactics. So there are a big picture, the strategies, and the small details, the tactics. And so that's why I'm using those matryoshka. You could almost say that the biggest one is the objective. After this, you have the strategies, the second one, and then going towards the right. Then you have the tactics, and then you have your actions, and then you have a daily action in order to be covering the weekly action. Okay. And again, now using not the matryoshka one next to each other, but with the words, is you have higher level decisions and lower level decisions. High level decisions are called strategy. Low level decisions are called low level strategies, or they're called tactics. So that's why when you come up with opportunities, it's better if you come up with opportunities that generate strategies versus opportunities that generate tactics. And I had one today that we looked at. That's the one I have right here. The price of electricity is going up by 15% in January 2024, according to this research. Toyota should invent a car running on CO2. That's a strategy because it's reinventing a new product, it's creating a totally new product. So then you're going to have a different distribution, different brand, different sub-brand, different price, different packaging, different services, so many different things. So it's not a small deal, it's a big deal, it's a long-term deal. You're going to have to create it, you're going to have to test it, adjust it, commercialize it, service it, so many different things. Versus the tactic is this small thing that fits in a bigger idea, which fits in the big strategy. And here's the example, is hire a magician in Las Vegas to do a TikTok ad. That's could not be a strategy. You would be surprised by the number of students that think that using TikTok is a strategy or using a celebrity is a strategy. I would say there's more than 50% of the students that gives me, since I've been a professor, day one, the strategy is to use a media. Obviously, in 95, I was teaching, they were not telling me they're going to use TikTok in 95, but in 95, they would say, oh, you need to use, in 95, it was what, Brad Pitt or something, right, in 95. Angelina Jolie in 95. In 2000, it was Paris Hilton, and now it's Taylor Swift. And that's the strategy is to use Taylor Swift. And that's not a strategy. That will be a tactic because it may be important. You may have, this may be expensive for the company, obviously. It may have a huge impact, but it's not a strategy. It's a tactic. It's a media communication tactic that belongs to the big concept of promotion, that belongs to the 4 Ps, that belongs to a strategy of something. I don't know, it could be market development, whatever. So that's why you have to see market development, the 4 Ps, promotion, media selection, social media, Taylor Swift. I mean, you see, there's no more space here. So it's a small concept that is not the strategy. Again, how often do I see that? Between 80 to 100%. So it's pretty common. It's not always, but it's 80% of the time. So what should students say if they don't say Taylor Swift in 2025? Well, they should say, what are they trying to do? What's the objective, the big picture? What is the strategy for this? Is it creating new products? Is it going after a new group of customers? Is it about having a specific product line? Is it about maybe changing the way the business operates? It's a big operation. Is it about R&D and constantly having the most innovative product? Is it about having some kind of market share and focusing on sales? What is the big idea? These big ideas and the small ideas have to be discussed somewhat at the same time. Otherwise, you make yourself, so what students do 99% of the time, they don't discuss the big idea. They only discuss the details. But then I'm not saying it's terribly bad. I'm just saying it's incorrect and extremely common. Extremely common and just not correct. At least not correct to be someone who make executive decisions. So obviously you may think, you know what, I'm a bachelor student. I'm not going to be an executive. I'm realistic. I'm going to start from the bottom of the ladder and I'm going to climb until I can have an experience where I can be thinking strategically. It is true. And that's most likely what's going to happen. However, there are also many students that will not work for a big corporation. They may be working for a very small corporation where very soon they'll be wearing a hat of a much higher level of responsibility than most people in their age. And in that situation, they have to realize that to succeed, they need to think bigger first and then explain the details in order to achieve that big idea. And so that's what's inside the report is figuring out the big ideas and the small ideas and how do they all work together. That's what's very, very important. So having said that, we're almost finished. I want to drag your attention very quick to the fact that there are samples. It's extremely important that you see the samples. And the samples are in Canvas. If you look at Canvas file, and then you see past samples. And here I just have one, so I'm going to show you the simple one I have. Just the one I have will be good enough. So, and I took it from exactly what I'm telling you from Canvas. Huh? So the sample here as a little introduction. We'll have a little introduction of Oko H2O water bottle. The key problems are the key elements that you need to look at. They are difficult to really recognize at the beginning. Should you write those as soon as possible? I think you should start writing what you think are the key problems, and they are like the key strategic problems. Most likely, the one that you wrote last week or this week will be totally changed in April. The more you study a business, the better you become at identifying the 3 key problems. At the beginning, for the most part, we are all incorrect. However, the benefit of writing one is better than the benefit than not writing one. And then you have the strengths and weaknesses. So I insist that you should look at these because the samples should be just the way these are written. What I'm going to do is I'm going to email you the opportunity which I presented today for Oko H2 water. I know this will be published online, so you have access to the video, but I also want to write it down as a PDF document so I can send it to you, and that way you have that one page that you just showed today. So it gives you some basis for Oko water for the opportunity. Okay, and so as you see, there is the SWOT analysis, but the SWOT analysis is quickly followed by the strategy options. And so those strategic options are like, I don't know, vacation option. You know, for spring break, you could go skiing. For spring break, you could go where it's warm in South America. For spring break, you could go to Europe. For spring break, you could go to New York. For spring break, there's so many things you could do. All of these are choices. So it's like spring break option 1, spring break destination option 2, spring break. So these are strategic options as what are the strategy we could be implementing. And then you say the name of the strategy, here is differentiation. There's 2. You could have more than 1 as an explanation for the strategic option. It could be a combination of 2. You don't want to combine more than 2 because it becomes very complicated, but 2 is possible. Most students, most option will be 1. So I'm not saying 2 is better, but it's okay to have 1. It's okay to have 2 combined. And then you explain the pros and the cons for each one of them. I see it's 6:46, so the class is finished, but I just want to say, don't forget also that there's Christina. Take advantage of her being available. It's going to be a big help for you.